G'day all, it's Colin from PCTLC and thanks for joining me. In this video we're going to be taking a look at Reborn OS. That's a viewer request. Somebody's asked me to take a look at Reborn OS. I am familiar with Reborn OS. I have looked at it before as part of the Big Daddy Linux challenge, I believe it was. So let's have another look at it because it's probably matured a lot since we've done that challenge, I would have to think. First of all, I'm going to start off at its roots, which was starting off as Antigos. Now, Antigos is now discontinued. It first started off released in 2012 as Synarch, and it was using the Cinnamon desktop. And by June 2013, it was ranked among the top 40 most popular distributions viewed at DistroWatch. So the word Antigos means ancestors, was chosen to link the past with the present. Development for Antigos was ended on the 21st of May 2019 due to the lack of time on the part of the volunteer developers, which is unfortunate. And that was at the time when I think when we was looking at it as part of the Big Daddy Linux challenge, where we was all having lots of problems with the installer. So it was very obvious at that point that they were having a few issues there with the Antigos team, and obviously they had a lot going on in their own lives and they were struggling to maintain Antigos itself. Initially the project started as Synarch, and the desktop was Cinnamon, which was a fork of the GNOME shell developed by the Linux Mint team. In April 2013, the team adopted GNOME for future releases as the default. Starting with version 26 of the 5th 2014, Antigos partnered with the Numix project to bring Numix Square icons and an exclusive Numix Frost theme to the operating system. On March 2015, Antigos Minimal ISO was made available, providing only necessary components for the installer to function. By the 21st of May 2019, the developers announced the end of the development for the project, citing lack of time to work on it. They explained, "Today we are announcing the end of this project. As many of you probably noticed over the past several months, we no longer have enough free time to properly maintain Antigos. We came to this decision because we believe that continuing to neglect the project would be a huge disservice to the community. So taking this action now while the project's code still works provides an opportunity for interested developers to take what they find useful and start their own project." So that's pretty much in a nutshell what happened with Antigos. And then we had Antigos Reborn as Reborn OS. And it says here, Reborn OS is a distribution based on Arch Linux. It starts as an Antigos bifurcation. And bifurcation meaning, let's have a look at bifurcation meaning. Let's check that out. Bifurcation, the division of something into two branches or parts. That at that point they were taken over. They were offering more options during its installation based on the Antigos Cinchi installer, using the latter's repository and one of its own. So it says here, once the development of Antigos is finished, Reborn OS becomes an independent distribution, no longer depending on the Antigos repository, but its own repository besides, of course, the Arch Linux repos. So it currently offers Cinchi-based installer, which works without problems while developing its own installer, Phoenix, or Phoenix. I would have to think that's Phoenix, I'm not sure. So then that brings us to the Reborn OS website. So you got your download button here, over 10 desktops, and we got the installer. So we'll take a look at the installer itself. What I've got is two different installs already done on Virtualbox. So we'll start off and take a look at that. So what I've got is I've got a Reborn OS and I've got a Reborn OS EFI. On my Toshiba laptop here, which has got no screen anymore, so it just gets plugged into a monitor, which is this one here, that laptop there. That has somewhat of a troublesome UEFI or EFI system in that. So what happened is Reborn OS, I installed it on that laptop, but however it didn't actually boot up. It just said, you know, select an OS or whatever it says when it doesn't install. So I went through the install of EFI and it didn't work. I think I did legacy. I think I've done legacy on that. I changed it to legacy boot and it worked fine. So that's what we've got in here. So I did one on EFI on Virtualbox to make sure that EFI works. I think this one here has a very old EFI and it was very troublesome at the start because I couldn't even install Ubuntu when EFI first came out. So that's how much of a problem that was. So let's just check out the two installs I've got here. So this is the Reborn OS legacy mode, and I've installed the GNOME desktop here. And I have to say, out of the box, Reborn OS has very beautiful looking desktops out of the box, and they put a lot of effort into that. Let's just go to tweaks to start with, which comes out of the box. And if we have a look at appearance, they're using Yaru theme, and they've got a few other themes installed as well. Materia Dark, Yaru Dark, Yaru Light, Yaru. And also if we have a look at the icons, they got Papyrus, but they're currently, they're set on Papyrus. They got the Flat Remix, Capitan, Curses, ePyrus, ePapyrus. So they got the Flat Remix there. And for the shell default, they're using Yaru as well. Now this one here, you get you can add the Flatpak repository that will pop up after install on every desktop. So you just have to click Add Flatpak repository and it will do so. And then once you're happy with that, you can remove this from startup. So just click on that, put in your password, and that won't start up again. So that is Reborn OS GNOME install. And as you can see, they put quite a fair bit of effort into the appearance of the distro. Now I think I installed Spotify. I think that might have been the only thing I installed on this one. But there is a lot of options, as we will see when we go through the install. I didn't install a lot on this one. I was just doing a very quick install. And also we have the package manager, which is PAMAC, I think. Yep, PAMAC. And I'm pretty sure PAMAC is probably the same across the board in all desktops. So let's check out the other install I've got, which is the EFI install. And this one is the Reborn UEFI. Let's start that one. And we shall log in. I think this was the Deepin desktop I installed here. Unfortunately, we don't get the fancy effects and the blur and all that sort of stuff because we're in VirtualBox for this one. But that was the EFI install. And if we go to all categories, we'll just have a quick look at what's installed here. I think Firefox is installed out of the box. Spotify again I installed. I don't use Spotify, but I want to try it out. And yes, I installed VLC. I'm not sure if MPV I installed or not. I may have. Yeah, music we checked out already. Graphics. Didn't install anything there. And I didn't install anything there. And system, no, well, you just got your systems and all that. So then I think in here you also have, let's have a look, PAMAC, I think. Add remove software, let's check that out. And we have PAMAC. So I think you'll find consistently across the board you'll have PAMAC on all desktops for Reborn OS. You've got the option to install a lot of stuff there as browsing, but you've got categories, groups and repositories. And let's just take a quick look at personalization in here and see what they have on offer. General themes here, they've got the auto, the dark, icon themes, the flat remix, papyrus. So it looks like they've got the same icons available. Obviously the theme is going to vary depending on the distro itself, because Deepin has its own theme, so they're not going to probably mess with the Deepin theme. So that's probably, looks like the icons are going to be consistent across desktops, although they've got Breeze Dark in here. So they may vary it up a little bit, but it looks like Flat Remix and Papyrus are going to be consistent ones across desktops. We'll have a look at the Budgie Desktop brings to the table as well. So that's the UEFI I install. So the UEFI I install worked okay on that one, on Virtualbox. I'd have to think it would work on most devices with UEFI that's probably within the last 5-6 years, maybe 7 years. I can't remember how old my laptop is. It's definitely a lot older than that, I'm pretty sure. So it's probably 10 years old, I think, maybe more. So yeah, I'm pretty sure you should be okay if you're within 5-6 years, UEFI. Maybe even if it's just not a Toshiba. This Toshiba is just a nightmare to use, even when it comes to like if I install Reborn OS on this, or even Arch Linux, and trying to install the Optimus NVIDIA, that is just a nightmare. I just never ever can get that running. Although Ubuntu does it straight out of the box, and so does Linux Mint. So any Ubuntu based distro probably will do that. But when it comes to Arch Linux, I don't even want to go there, to be honest. It's a nightmare. So anyway, let's what we can do now is we can install Reborn OS. So let's do that. Okay, so I'm going to install the Budgie Desktop. I hope the Budgie Desktop is there. I'm pretty sure it is. So let's get started with that. I don't know why when this started in VirtualBox, you actually add in the ISO, but it still asks you for the ISO anyway. Strange. On startup, it never used to do that. I don't know at what point that changed. This is legacy, by the way. I forgot to set EFI. It doesn't really matter at the end of the day. A lot of people are still using legacy anyway. A lot of people still not convinced with EFI, I don't think. It's meant to be a bit more secure on boot up, I believe. That's what it is. So UEFI, Unified Extensible Firmware Interface, is what it is. UEFI replaces the legacy basic input-output system BIOS firmware interface originally present in all IBM PC compatible personal computers. UEFI can support remote diagnostics and repair of computers even with no operating system installed. Well, there you go. Yep, that's that. Nothing exciting really, I must say. Let's get back to the Reborn OS install. So you can either try it, which will put you in a live environment, or you can choose to install it. So let's just go try it to start with. Now you have got gparted here to help with install. If you want to set up your own partitions for install, you can do so with the option of gparted installed on the live environment. So what we're going to do here is click on this icon here, Reborn OS Installer. So let's do that and let's install it. English for me. Since you're up to date, it should be, because we should have internet. That's a bit strange. We have internet, I'm pretty sure, wired connected. So let's try that again. That's a bit strange. The internet should be connected and Cinchi should be up to date. Now I think this has happened to me before, so I just started it up a couple of times. No, not happening. Strange. Let's see if we've got internet to start with in case there's something going wrong at my end. Internet seems to be working all right. Let's just see if we're getting tracked by Google. Yes, we are. So it's running. Close tabs. Let's just do a ping. Ping google.com. And as you can see, we've got internet running. So I don't know why the install is not updating because it normally does that before it installs. So let's just try again. All right, I'm going to shut down and I'm going to restart just in case something's gone wrong there. So we'll power off and we'll reboot that. For some reason that they've both got to be ticked off, internet and Cinchi update. They both should be ticked off, otherwise you could have problems with install. So I'm not sure what's going on there. I'll just check my settings to start with. All right, so the settings seem to be fine. I don't know what's going on there. So let's see if we can get a successful Cinchi startup. Okay, so what we'll do this time is go directly to install. And I might just, before I click ahead, just give it a little bit of time to think about what it's doing. All right, so it's not happening. I don't know whether they are working on Cinchi at the moment. That's quite a possibility. Let's have a look at the install, the website here. March the 3rd, March the 2nd. What are we today? March the 6th. March the 2nd, installer problems. Installer is not working due to an issue with one of the addresses it uses to check it's online. We're aware of the issue and it will be resolved soon. It will be required to download a new ISO once we've fixed it. So thank you for your patience. So there's an issue there. Okay. And new installer available. So it looks like I need to download the new ISO. Which ISO have I got? So the new installer on the 2nd of the 3rd, 21. Which one have I got? Let's just check that out. What I've got here in downloads and ISO. Reborn OS 6th of the 2nd. So I've got an older one, so that's why it's not working. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop this video and I'm going to download the new install of the new ISO, and then we'll continue the install after I've done that. It's no good doing the install when it's not working correctly, but at least they've solved the problem fairly quickly. So all we need to do now is go to the download and download a new ISO. So I will be back with a new ISO. Okay, so we've downloaded the new ISO, so let's get stuck into it and have a look at what Reborn brings to the table. Okay, so let's just go directly to install it. English. And now you can see that is connected to the internet and Cinchi is up to date. So if you don't have those two, you could have problems with the Cinchi installer. So it's best that they're all ticked off for the best possible results and the best install experience. English Australia, Perth for me. And we need to go to English US. Now this is where the fun begins. We get to choose a desktop. So what I'm going to do here is, what have we got? Now, interesting, they have a little, depending which one you click on the side here, they will have a small amount of information regarding the desktop and what it is. So the base is this option will install Reborn OS as command line only system. So it gives you a bit of a rundown on what that is. And then you got the Budgie. Budgie is the flagship desktop of Solus. And then you got the Cinnamon, is a Linux desktop which provides advanced innovative features and a traditional desktop user experience. In Deepin, and tells you about Deepin. So the one interesting one amongst all of this is the Pantheon one. Now I thought it was interesting that Pantheon was in here because you don't ever rarely see, if at all, Pantheon offered in any other distro as an install option. But what we find interesting here is the Pantheon is the desktop environment that Elementary OS runs on. While true Pantheon is too unstable for Reborn OS to offer, we have tried to offer the next best thing. By selecting Pantheon, you will get Elementary OS's good looks on a highly customized desktop running Cinnamon underneath. So it is the Cinnamon desktop, highly themed to look like Pantheon. So just keep that in mind if you decide to install the Pantheon desktop, because if you're expecting a complete elementary experience out of the box, it may not be. So on this occasion, I've already installed Deepin and GNOME. I'm going to go for the Budgie Desktop this time. And that's, yes, flagship desktop of Solus, and is a Solus project. It focuses on simplicity and elegance, written from scratch with integration in mind. The Budgie Desktop tightly integrates with the GNOME stack, but offers an alternative desktop experience. So let's get into it. Now this is where the fun starts. We get to choose a lot of things here prior to the install. And as you've seen on a couple of my installed Spotify, I think on the GNOME, might have been the Deepin one I installed VLC. I have done a couple of other installs that I deleted, and I did install LibreOffice. Oh, actually, that might have been on the real hardware. It was on the Toshiba laptop I installed LibreOffice, Google Chrome, and what else did I install? Spotify, Redshift, printing support's already there. I also installed Power Saving, and they all installed out of the box, no problem at all. So there was no issues with those installations. So I want to keep this one quite simple. We've got Firefox already. We will install Spotify. I don't need a Redshift on a Virtualbox. I'm not going to install LibreOffice. It takes a bit too long. I think I installed Bluetooth support in that Toshiba laptop as well. You've got applications to perform system maintenance, Chromium web browser. So by default, it's checked on for the long-term support kernel as well. So yeah, I think I might just keep it to Spotify for this install. So let's go ahead. And it'll give you a disclaimer here that the Arch user repository is a collection of user-submitted package builds that supplement software available from the official repositories. The AUR is community-driven and not supported by Arch or Reborn OS. Just a bit of a disclaimer there. Close that. So the AUR is checked on by default. I forgot to show that. If we go back, you can see, I think it's up the top here, Arch user repositories support is checked on by default. I don't really do anything here. You can put in a cache in case something goes wrong. I just leave that as none. I just let the Cinchi sort the mirror lists. And I erase disk and install Reborn. Now, if I choose where to install and go there, I noticed that when I was installing UEFI I on the Toshiba laptop, it does not give me an option to choose if I set up a partition, an EFI partition, as an SDA1 512 megabyte with boot ESP flags on there, it does not give me the option on the Toshiba laptop to select SDA1, which would be SDA1 if I was to make a partition for booting. It doesn't give me the option, it only gives you the SDA option. So that's where the issue comes down to sorting out EFI partition on the Toshiba laptop. In VirtualBox it works fine, it installs fine on Legacy and EFI. On this occasion I'm going to erase disk and install Reborn OS, which is what I did on the Toshiba laptop, but then I tried doing the EFI separate, making my own partitions, and that still didn't work. And this is where the problem come in, where use this device below for bootloader installation. Now, normally when I make my own partitions, the EFI boot partition would be SDA1, and it would not give me the option there. If I uncheck that, then I don't get any other options. I tried unchecking it, that didn't work either. So it comes down to the fact that the EFI on that Toshiba laptop is old. So we'll just go through the motions here. Just give that a long name because I want to know what it is. And I'll require my password to log in, and let's go. And then it gives you a summary of what you've done there, the location, time zone, desktop environment, keyboard layout, what I've selected here, which is the Firefox web browser as part of the features, and also all those things there. I selected Spotify. So these ones were all turned on by default. I don't think that tick is related to Firefox. It's just the tick for the whole lot. And the partitions is what it's going to create there. A boot, SDA1 as boot, and device SDA2, ext4 file system as root, and a swap partition as well. And we move forward. Are you really sure you want to continue? Yes. Okay, and that is the install of Reborn OS complete. What I think I will do is I might actually just finish up on this one here, and we'll have a look at the install and look around the Budgie Desktop of Reborn OS and see what tools are available. Because I've noticed across multiple desktops that I've installed now that there's certain tools available within Reborn OS, so I would like to have a look at those. So we'll do that in a different video because this one's probably taken up enough time already. And I've noticed at the end of the install, the little motto there from Reborn OS, and it said, "Made for you, made with you." I'd have to think that they're talking about the fact that they've made this ISO for you, but when you're installing, you've got all those other options of how you want your distro to be once it's installed. So then that means it's made with you. I like that motto. It's a good motto, that one. Made for you, made with you. So that is the install of Reborn OS and a little bit of information there on Reborn. And that's the Budgie Desktop complete. And we'll have a look at that in another video. So thanks for joining me on this one. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you found it interesting and informative, and see you in the next video.